As I was growing up, I was exposed to being an entrepreneur a lot. My father was an entrepreneur. I was an entrepreneur with a lawn mowing business, and then later in high school, my own company. I had other entrepreneurs that I worked for as a kid in town. But there were always these stories, these myths, these rules that seemed to float around that you had to obey. And I wanted to talk about 3 myths today that have to do with businesses and customers. And I think they're junk.
Let me guess the first one. Can I just guess what the first one is going to be?
Yes.
Because I'm just, the customer, always right.
How'd you know?
You know what? We might talk occasionally about the fact that we absolutely think this is just junk. Like, the customer's always right. No, they're not.
Okay, so that's one of the ones that shows up all the time. The customer is always right. Absolutely. Why do you think that's junk? Why have we talked about it being junk for so long?
Well, several reasons. If they came to us for expert advice, it means that, first of all, they probably don't know everything that we know about the thing that they're getting help with, right? So it kind of stands to reason, just logically, that they can't be right. Like, they can't always be right. So if they come to us and they want to do something, say, in advertising or marketing, and we're like, that is not a great idea.
Yeah.
So even just that, right, without any conflict, without any further messing up of it, it just simply can't be true.
Well, and when I was growing up and I was struggling with this, one of the things you dealt with was somebody would say, like, you'd be working a counter and somebody would say, well, you gave me the wrong change.
Right.
Or, or no, I ordered 2 hot dogs and a chili dog. And you're like, no, you didn't. I wrote this down. I know you didn't order 2 hot dogs and a chili dog. Part of it was that customer service idea. Don't argue with the customer. Another myth. Which, at some level, it's like, okay, don't get in a fight with the customer. That's just kind of dumb.
Well, and you have to take into account how, like, what's the value of the thing that's happening, right? Like, how big of a deal is it if you have to put chili on one more hot dog?
Yeah.
Probably not a big deal.
Yeah, it's really a tricky one because as entrepreneurs, we're running the balance of when the customer is right or not. Does the customer always know what they need or not? That whole concept. And then when they start to argue and tell you what is important. So one of the things that we've talked about a lot in our ideal clients is that idea of, well, the client needs to want help, right? So one of the things we've seen is the client shows up, the client says, I want help, and then they ask you your opinion and then they tell you you're wrong. And then over time you're like, okay.
That doesn't happen.
And that was one thing that I always figured out, okay, they have to actually want help and they have to want advice, and that's critical. So the bottom line here is the client is not always right. They come to you for expertise. And even in the general retail world and everything else, it's not always in your best interest to argue with the client, but there are tactful ways of dealing with it and addressing with it. And sometimes, like you said, it's a matter of how big the scale is. Myth number 2, turning away a paying customer. You should never turn away a paying customer. I heard this as a kid growing up. Every dollar is worth it. Every customer is worth it. You should never. Now you see signs that say things like, no shirt, no shoes, no service.
They're turning away a potentially paying customer.
Which probably needed to happen out of the 60s and 70s because I remember all kinds of stories about no shirts and no shoes. But the idea that, okay, don't ever turn away a paying customer.
Yeah.
What do you think of that?
Well, again, I mean, if I'm serving somebody at an ice cream cart and they're obnoxious, but they're buying an ice cream cone and then they're walking away and that's the end of the thing and it's just a very transactional thing.
Uh-huh.
Maybe it's not a big deal if it's small and transactional. But as soon as you start moving into longer term client relationships, the idea that you would never turn away a paying customer starts to become very dangerous. So we talk a lot in our world about whether or not a client aligns with your values, whether or not, again, are they a client who actually realizes they need help and they are willing to do the thing that you are suggesting that they do, to actually take the advice that you're giving them. So there are clients that will come along, some of them with lots and lots of money. They could potentially transform your business, but they're not the kinds of clients that you should take because of what it would do to your staff, what it would do to your resources, or because they're just not a good fit for who you are.
Which leads us into our third myth, and that is all clients are equal.
Oh.
They're all valuable. Every client is worth the same. Every client's not worth the same. Every client's not worth the same value as far as lifetime value. Every client is not worth the same as when it comes to energy and effort that it takes to take care of them and serve them. And sometimes when you're talking about number two, they're also not a good fit. That fit can really radically change the value.
I do think, again, if you're selling a widget or a single item, then perhaps one client is equally valuable to another client. But even then, if there's somebody who's buying but they're not going to be repeat customers, or they're going to be customers who don't promote your business, who don't say nice things about you because of the experience and who they are, then even in a transactional world, that can become difficult.
Those are 3 myths of running your business that can cause you to have problems in being successful. Watch one of our other videos on how to be successful in business, and you'll see a whole lot more information.